What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to another episode of Soulsborne Academy. Don't mind the hunter in the corner; they're just here for your protection. Happy 4,000 subscribers! Before I filmed this video, I saw the number. I was like, "Oh my god, we're at 4,000 subscribers! We got it over the weekend. We got it before the end of the year." And I just want to say thank you guys so much for 4,000 subscribers. There's 4,000 people here. There's 4,000 of you. And to celebrate, I made myself a cup of hot cocoa with marshmallows, whipped cream, and some pumpkin spice. Cheers. That's so good. That's so good. I'm trying to be careful because there's I put extra mallows on top. Thank you guys truly again from the bottom of my heart. I can't even put into words what this means to me. I'm so incredibly just overwhelmed overwhelmed in the best way possible, to say the least. I'll have better cohesive words whenever it comes to the live stream, because I know if I keep talking I won't turn into a blubbery mess. So let's get into today's video. In today's episode of Soulsborne Academy, we're going to be talking about a theory, possibly a new theory, of how NPCs in Bloodborne, Souls games, Souls-like games, are the collective consciousness of the player character. This is a thought that I came up with purely inspired by my Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty review. Psychologically, when you look at Souls games, you have such an open-ended question that is with a lot of these games, right? Where you see that you can create any world that you want to within a manner of speaking. So when I say that each NPC is the collective consciousness of the player character, I'm talking about Bloodborne, I'm talking about Dark Souls 1 to 3, I'm talking about Demon Souls, I'm talking about Elden Ring. Why do you think there is not such a linear yet linear story with each of these games? In Souls games, you don't have to talk to certain NPCs. You could go the entire game without interacting with a single NPC. Okay, that might be a little bit of a stretch, but you understand my point. There are certain NPCs that you don't have to discuss or do anything with at all whatsoever, that are either for side quests or even for the main story. You could just completely ignore them entirely. I don't think you can ignore Patches. That's one NPC I do not think you can ignore. I feel like, you know, if you didn't know who he was in Bloodborne, he is easily missable. But yeah, there are certain NPCs altogether that are just, you can miss them entirely. I remember in Bloodborne, Patches was a spider character, and if you wanted to go through his quest line, it was a pretty deep quest line that you could go of his. It's entirely missable if you choose not to go down that road. When we go into a Souls game or a Souls-like game, we're creating the version of ourselves that we want to be, that we wish we could be. Do not tell me that you don't go into a Souls or Souls-like game in that character creation section and that you don't create the vision of yourself that you want to see portrayed in the game. We're creating the strong, buffy, charismatic, savior knight, if you will. We're creating a character in our own enhanced image, if you will, which lends another entirely different discussion to the religion of Souls and Souls-like games, but that's another discussion for another time. We're creating these characters, we're choosing our attributes, we're dissecting each and everything that we need to put into our character, how our eyebrows need to be, how our lips, our facial structure, our color, everything is made to the T of how the player wants it to be made. So let's say, for example, you interact with Eileen the Crow in Bloodborne. You go on her quest line, which is entirely missable, and you could miss an entirely different boss towards the end of the game. Or let's say you meet with Darkstalker Koth, which is entirely, again, a missable NPC, which is kind of the dark version of Kingseeker Frompt. And if you talk with Darkstalker Koth, you could possibly get an entirely different ending to Dark Souls 1. But when Kingseeker Frompt is then attacked, he disappears for the rest of the playthrough. And that's the really interesting part of where some characters, if you are attacking them or if you aggro them, you don't have a good relationship with them for the rest of the playthrough. It's kind of like Starfield, of where once the character goes aggro, they are aggro for the rest of the game, and they have in memory of that kind of, atrocity that you bestowed upon them, the sin which you have bequeathed upon their chest, the dangers that you have inhabited amongst their soul. Entirely wrong usage of the word inhabited, but you get my point. Certain NPCs are crucial to continuing the game and the story or quest lines that you are currently on in whichever Souls and Souls-like you are playing. But when you see each character and you see each NPC and you see how you are representing yourself through the character self in the game, there begs the question, is this the way the character is thinking, and is this a representation of the thought process of the player? So in Demon's Souls, when we see Patches again, Patches is this kind of psychological representation of the greed and humanity. And also, I believe he is a time traveler because he is in every stinking game. It does not age whatsoever. When we look at the greed and humanity through the lens of Souls and Souls-like games, we see this kind of continuum of, is there something more to the humanity that we are experiencing than just us? Or is it all a collective? Kind of like it takes a village to raise a child. And more or less, Dark Souls, it takes a village to raise a masochist. The point I'm trying to make is that when you see all these different NPCs throughout the game, they have something of value that they bring to the player character. They have something that they want from the player character that they always seem to have ready to go, or they have to get later on in the game. When that need is met, they are right there beside them, either fighting a boss battle or they're with them, healing them, whichever capacity. Notice how if you help a certain NPC, they are more than happy to be alongside you fighting in a boss battle. We could say psychologically that this is the extension of ourselves in the boss arena, that we are basically helping ourselves to further invest in our own story, to further try to figure out what our own consciousness includes. Does it include that NPC that we had to fight in the gallows in order to kind of have them with us in that boss battle to feel more secure? Or is it just a matter of this is just another character that we're helping and it's very cut and dry? I don't like to think that it's very cut and dry. I like to think that it's a little more in depth than people might think. I'm going to mess this person's name up entirely, but I believe it was the K-Shield of Dark Souls 2, of where you simply just had to listen to her in order to have her as a summon on your side for the Lost Sinner boss battle. It's interesting, isn't it, that sometimes all someone needs is for someone to listen to them, for them to be on your side. It doesn't matter if they like you. It doesn't matter what is happening in the current circumstance. You're fighting for the exact same thing, which is another reason why I think that these NPCs are the collective consciousness of the player character. They're all fighting the same fight. They're all doing the same thing. They're just outer extensions of what the character is. Some are really strong. Some are really brave. Some are complete drunks. Some have the intellectual knowledge of a pea, and some have these outward curiosities, sometimes morbid, sometimes unique. The bonfire, the fire maiden is probably one of the most interesting characters. I'll be doing a Psychologically Gaming and Soulsborne Academy video on the Firekeeper for sure, because there's a lot of lore, there's a lot of psychology behind the Firekeeper that we need to dive into. But when we think of a collective consciousness, we think of a collective unit, a city, if you will, of different thoughts and perceptions and values that are within one person. And I love how Souls-like games, have kind of outwardly made this narrative of where, no, these are different perspectives, but they're all a part of the same concept. They're all a part of the same person. But yeah, that was it for today's Soulsborne Academy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I'm going to try to do, I haven't posted a Dark Souls 2 or Lords of the Fallen episode in a little bit, so sorry about that. The holidays have gotten kind of crazy around this time. But hopefully what I'm going to do, and I've done this without your guys' approval because I'm going to do both games as playthroughs. Now, what... You guys are probably like, Ariel, you said you would not do 2 games at the same time. What are you doing? I did. I said that after Cyberpunk 2077, the other one I was playing. I said that. I did. But these 2 games, I promised you guys I would do and I would complete. So I am going to be doing playthroughs of both of these. And then what's going to happen is after these 2 games are done, there will be a playthrough on the channel for a little bit. The next playthrough after this will be Mortal Shell, but that's not going to be for a hot minute because I don't want to burn myself out on playthroughs. That's why I kind of was also taking a break from uploading playthroughs as well. So expect those more towards the end of the week. That way there's time for filming, all that fun stuff. But if you guys like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. I make videos every weekday here on YouTube. If you find your worth in the waking world, your hunter, stay casually nerdy, and I will see you all in the next video. Umbasa.